Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by Pingdom and Astropad Studio. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is my co-host, Federico Vitici. Hey, Federico.
Hey, John. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, I wanted to have fun with this episode today and try something that we haven't done before. And, you know, what are you up for? Are you up for exposing the apps that you've downloaded?
Oh, is that what we're doing? I thought when you mentioned fun, I thought we were going through your phone and deleting all of the apps that you have.
Oh, no. We can't do that.
So you mean you've actually downloaded more apps?
No, I've been better since I've been shamed by the
Have
entire
you?
internet. Yeah, I have. We we can get there, Federico. Last year, I even had Alex Cox on last summer to give me a real hard time. She knows how to shame you into taking apps off your iPhone. But yeah, so no, what I wanted to do today is something a little different, though. I wanted to go through our purchased section of the App Store and just kind of see what is it that we've downloaded recently, because I think it's an interesting insight into both, I guess, apps that we enjoy, but also apps we try and our process for what we do at Mac Stories. And there's always a little story behind all these apps. And I thought it would be fun to kind of go through there and figure out why it is that these apps are on our phones.
That's a fun idea. Okay, sure. You want to go first?
Sure, I will go first, but I'm gonna lay ground rules because I know you.
We have rules. Okay,
you're a man who likes rules, right?
I do like rules. I'm famous for my excellent and award-winning rules on the Connected podcast.
I know.
Yes,
That is.
They are approved by lawyers. We had a lawyer on the show recently, and he complimented me on my rules. So
he did. He said they were more complicated than any other contract he'd ever seen.
I thought that was a compliment.
And they're written in red like blood in those show notes, from what I understand as well.
Yes. So he paid me a very nice compliment. So there you go. Rules on App Stories. I love this. Let's do it. Let me see. Give me these rules.
I am going to try to keep these very simple, but I have a feeling that you'll find a way to complicate them. The first rule is no betas and no pre-release apps. And that's only because there's some apps that we just can't mention because people haven't really, the developers haven't told us that it's okay to talk about them publicly. And I don't want to talk about somebody's app before they've said it's okay for us to do so. And while sometimes we know that it's okay, I'm just going to make a blanket rule: no betas.
Okay.
You're all right.
Fair.
You're all right with that? Okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. The next one is also very simple. It has to be a recent download. We're talking about, I don't know, the last month or so, maybe the last 30 days going back. And we're doing this from the purchased section of the App Store, okay? So you go right in there and you tap on your name and you look at purchased and you go into that. And then...
Yeah, I would say 45 days. 30 is too short.
All right, that's fine, because I will tell you, when I went and looked, I was surprised at how few apps there were in 30 days, but that's partly because we had, the beta rule is a bit of a limiter because we do get a lot of betas all the time, and there's a lot of apps that...
That's a humble brag.
No, it's not. All right.
You got all the betas. Oh, you're so fancy.
All right, Federico, I'm going to let that one just go right past me.
Okay.
And then finally on Mac apps, and I know you've got a lot of them.
Mac apps? Really?
I know you've got a lot of them, but they can be either from the Mac App Store or something you downloaded separately directly from a developer website. All right?
Can they be Electron apps?
No. That's
Okay, so rules. No Electron apps.
That's my personal rule.
No Electron apps. Can they?
We know how much I like those, right?
Okay, so if we do this again in the future, let's say that this is let's say that you downloaded What, which is the name of the episode, becomes a recurring segment on App Stories. No Electron apps, but if we do it in the future, Catalyst apps are fine. Just not today, because those are in beta.
They are in beta, and we also know that those are native apps, so it's okay. Maybe someday we'll do a show of nothing but our favorite Electron apps, but I think if someone waits for that, they ought not hold their breath, because it'll be a very long time before that episode is done.
Okay. Two more questions for you. What about watchOS apps, and what about tvOS apps?
That is a very good question. I had not thought about those.
Sure.
I'm not a hater, but I would say yes, we can use watchOS or tvOS apps.
Add it to the rules.
All right. I don't think I have probably downloaded a tvOS app in probably 6 months. This is good podcasting. You can actually
This is
hear
good.
me typing.
This is great. People love when I come up with rules. Okay. Yeah, this is fine. I think this is a good constitution for this type of episode. I like these rules. We're gonna do this again. Maybe after September, maybe in October, November, after all of the OS updates have launched and a bunch of new apps have come out. Why don't we start digging into this list of recent downloads? I think, looking at the preview of this list, I think there's probably one that I'm ashamed of. There's more to talk about in your list. I know that I'm looking at least one.
One super embarrassing.
That I have a lot of questions for you, John. So start with the first one, which is not too bad. Your first one is actually pretty good.
It's not. What do you mean it's not too bad? It's Minute, and Minute, MINIT, is a fantastic game. It's a game that you run around trying to solve puzzles and collect items and do all sorts of things in kind of an 8-bit world in black and white, but you only have a minute to do it, and then you die. And you have to keep starting over and over and over. And each time you start over, though, you retain whatever items you've collected, whether it's a sword or a key or a flashlight or whatever it happens to be. So you can still make progress despite the fact that you're being killed every single time. And this is an app that I've been playing with and getting ready to review on Mac Stories. This is an app too that's been it's been on consoles and other platforms for a while, but it's just come to iOS, and it's got a virtual joystick, which I don't love. Fortunately, the app does support Bluetooth, controllers. So I have been using my Steel Series, which, as usual, I had to take the Steel Series and plug it in to get the battery charged up enough to test this. But, those on-screen, I find when I use those on-screen joysticks with my thumb, I'm watching the action of the game, and my thumb doesn't stay on the joystick, and it slides up, and then maybe I hit the pause button or something else happens. It's just not a good experience. It's much better if you use this game with a controller, but especially on the iPad Pro, big screen, looks fantastic, especially if you can use something like the Steel Series.
So is this one of those games, is there an actual sense of progress as you play the game? Because I feel like if you play only a minute for each level, how do you get better at the game?
Well, you remember where you've been and what you did and what you still need to do, and there are little hints along the way, and you meet little characters throughout the game that tell you kind of what you need to do, what your missions are. And as I mentioned, you do retain the items that you collect. So you may go into the dungeon one time and realize that it's all dark and you get bitten by a snake and die immediately. And then you realize, I got to find a flashlight or a torch or something. And you find that. And even if you die after 60 seconds, you can keep going back to that dungeon and exploring because you've got the flashlight, and then eventually you can make a little more progress each time, but you got to be quick, and you got to kind of have a plan for what you're going to do once you start over. I mean, you can kind of start over endlessly, but it takes a little while to explore the map because you can only get a certain a fairly small chunk of it done at any one time.
Okay. Yeah. I just bought this game from the App Store, so I'm gonna try and play on iOS. It's got a very funny icon as well.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Pingdom. Pingdom is the company that makes website performance monitoring super easy. Everyone loves a fast website, so it's important that yours is too. And Pingdom is helping to keep your favorite websites online. Netflix, Amazon, Spotify, Twitter, BuzzFeed, and Slack, to name just a few of the companies that trust Pingdom to take care of their website monitoring, and you should too. Websites can get pretty complicated, but you can monitor any site transaction with Pingdom. Stuff like user registrations or logins, checkouts, and a whole lot more. Pingdom care about your users and want them to have the smoothest site experience possible. So if disaster strikes, you'll be the first to know. And with Pingdom, you will. It's super easy to get started. All Pingdom needs is your URL, and they'll take care of the rest. It's that easy. So go to pingdom.com/signup right now for a 14-day free trial with no credit card required. That's right, no credit card is required. When you decide to sign up, use the code AppStories at checkout to get a huge 30% off your first invoice. Again, that's the code AppStories to get 30% off your first invoice and to let them know that you came from this show. Our thanks to Pingdom for their support of App Stories.
My first pick is an actual serious one. I literally just downloaded this app as we record this week. Secure Shellfish. I've had the beta version for a long time. I just downloaded the App Store version. This is an SFTP and SSH client, but it's not an app. It's only a file provider for the Files app. Right. So this utility was developed by the Anders Borum. Is the creator of Working Copy, which is possibly one of our most used apps on iOS, the very popular GitHub client. And this app allows you to bring FTP access and SSH access into the Files app. So whether you want to connect to a remote server or to a computer on your local network or a bunch of different servers or a bunch of different locations, like starting directories for the same computer, you can add all of those to the Shellfish provider in the Files app, where they will show up as folders, and then you can just tap to open and you'll be connected. The app is only used for configuration and to do things like enable notifications and that kind of stuff. And it's really well done. It's one of the most reliable and fast and stable file providers I've ever used. We have a review on Mac Stories where Ryan goes into detail on all of the features of the app. But basically, you can download files, and transfers are solid. Like they don't cancel out, as has been the case with other FTP clients that I've tested over the years. The app uses notifications, like local notifications, if you close files. But then a download or an upload is still ongoing. And when it's about to be canceled because of background execution rules on iOS, you'll get a notification that tells you, hey, maybe you should actually reopen files because you have this download going on. The app is totally free to use, which is incredible, but you can pay to support the development and unlock offline files and directories, which allow you to mark certain documents or folders from a remote location as to be always cached offline on your device in the Files app. It's really a genius idea. There have been apps with file providers that enable SFTP and SSH access before. File Browser, File Explorer, which is what I used to use before. I actually wrote about this in my Beyond the Tablet story in May. But none of them were exclusively designed for files, and none of them were as fast or as stable as Secure Shellfish, which is also a fun name. It's a shellfish, and it's got an icon with a shell and a lock. So what's not to love about that? It's a really good app.
Yeah, it's a fantastic app. I've really been enjoying using it too. Now, you know what, Federico?
Okay, let's talk about this. Come on.
Let's really talk about apps. Let's talk about embarrassing apps that we download. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about IRL, the social calendar.
This is like an app to meet people. What is this?
It is. It's to coordinate with all of your friends to go to.
Is it like Tinder for business?
No. It's like a weird combination of a calendar, an event suggestion engine. Like maybe like Eventbrite or something like that. And a way to message and coordinate with your friends to go out and have a fab time in the city.
Well, did you just say you have a fab time?
I did. Well, because I'm going to embarrass myself even further. This is one of those apps that I downloaded, and I thought to myself, I can never tell Federico that I downloaded this because
do tell.
he will make fun of me for the rest of my life. And then of course I then of course I decide, well, of course I have to tell him because it is.
You came up with the idea for this show.
I did. It was my idea, and I wanted to embarrass myself by this one.
What is the backstory here?
The backstory is after WWDC, the releases of apps is a little weak. There's not a lot going on. There's not a lot of new apps, and I was looking for app debuts for the newsletter, and I don't know where I saw this. I think I saw this linked in a TechCrunch article about them getting funding that I saw on Twitter, right? Something like that. And I should have known better. I really should have known better. But I thought, all right, people going to stuff, doing things, calendars, social networks. This might be interesting. I downloaded it. It started wanting to connect to all my Google calendars and all this stuff. I abandoned it within about 2 minutes. I did not actually get to the point where I had an account and signed up, especially since I realized I live in the suburbs. There aren't going to be any events in here for the suburbs. I mean, it's just not going to be something for me. So I immediately deleted it. But yes, sometimes those are the kind of apps I download in the name of science for Mac Stories.
Yeah, sure.
All right. It's all your fault once again. You made me do it. You made me do it because you want me to work.
Nothing.
You want me to write for the newsletter. I got to have something to write about. So I downloaded a social calendar.
I'm just surprised. I'm curious from the process that led you to download and try this app where in the description on the App Store, and I'm quoting here one of the passages from the description. If you think people suck or just like staying organized, IRL is also built for your solo moments. What does it mean?
I don't even know what that means.
If you're a sociopath, you can use this app.
I did not read that to my, in my defense. I did not read that. At the very end
of the description, and again, remember, we are on the App Store, so it's not like we are on Twitter or Facebook. It says #social, #calendar, #you're welcome.
Oh my. I'm so embarrassed.
I'm sorry. I'm sure that the developer is a very nice person, and I'm sure that some people use social calendar. CNBC thinks that unlike other social app, IRL wants to pry teens away from their phones. John, you're not a teenager, right?
No, this is true.
You are outside of the definition
by just a few years. Yes,
just a few years. I guess I'm just surprised. In the screenshot, it shows teenagers coordinating to meet up for a Drake concert.
I must have been very tired or something that day.
I tell you what, it's got a good icon. The icon
does have
nice.
a good icon. Yes, it is very nice. And they got some of that sweet VC money, so they got that going for them. Even if we're mocking them, they still have those millions of dollars.
Yes. So jokes on us.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Astropad Studio. Astropad Studio turns your iPad into a completely customizable graphics tablet. With Astropad, you can combine the power of the Apple Pencil with your favorite Mac apps right on your iPad. The makers behind Astropad understand that no two artists work alike. That's why they've packed Astropad with opportunities to customize every aspect of your workflow, with features like programmable gestures, custom pressure curves, and unlimited per-app shortcuts. They literally designed Astropad from the ground up for professional artists. Astropad also guarantees low latency performance over Wi-Fi or a USB cable, so you can set up your workspace on the go. It's a high-performance tool for the most demanding creative work, and today, Astropad is used by major animation studios and product design firms across the globe. So, if you're ready to take your creative workflow to the next level, you can start your free 30-day trial of Astropad Studio today. Visit astropad.com to get started. Again, that URL is astropad.com. Our thanks to Astropad Studio for their support of App Stories.
Again, in the spirit of actually having serious picks, one of my recent downloads is 1.1.1.1, the DNS service from the Cloudflare folks. So it behaves like a VPN app on iOS. And I'm just going to call it 1111. There really isn't a better way to say the name of this service. It is
Right.
it's a DNS server. It's like a DNS provider that encrypts all of your DNS queries. There's a blog post, we're gonna put it in the show notes, from the Cloudflare folks explaining what they do to anonymize and make all of your DNS queries private, so that your ISP cannot see what you do on the internet and maybe sell some of your activity to advertisers and that kind of stuff.
What do you have to hide, Federico? Come on. What is it?
I got nothing to hide.
All
I got nothing
right.
to hide. All of the amiibo that I buy and all of the keyboards that I buy. That's what how advertisers can target me. Amiibos and keyboards. You got me. It's also, in addition to privacy, there's also the fact that, unlike other DNS resolvers, this one is like 28% faster. There's actually a page where you can go in and compare all of the popular DNS resolvers that you can use. And there's a couple of ways that you can enable this 1.1.1.1 on your iOS device. Either you download the app and you flip a switch and it basically turns on the VPN service on iOS, or you can manually go in settings without having to use the app and change the DNS configuration manually. If you use the app, you just flip the switch, it'll always be enabled regardless of the cellular service or Wi-Fi network you are connected to. And also, the Cloudflare folks are working on DNS Plus. I think it's going to be called Warp, which is a service that's going to make your internet faster, and it's launching sometime in the fall or this winter. So yeah, I'm very much a fan of what Cloudflare has done for the internet and to offer, protection from denial of service attacks and all that kind of stuff. They have a CDN, which I'm looking into. I've been really curious to see what their latest offerings from Cloudflare from a business perspective. But they also have a lot of consumer products. And if you want to make your DNS private, this has been like, I can actually tell the difference between the terrible default DNS service from my Italian ISP and this one. It actually makes browsing the web while I'm at home a little bit faster. And it's also private, which makes me feel good.
All right. I'm going to move on from my social calendaring to talk a little bit about GameTrack. And this is one of those apps.
This is a good one. This one is good.
This is a video game tracking app. And I ran across this on Twitter just very randomly through a retweet of somebody talking about this app. And there are a lot of apps that do this out there, but I really like the way that GameTrack handles it. It has, all sorts of lists that you can create. There's your backlog for the games that you're actually playing right now. There's an archive for your finished games. There's a wish list for things that are coming up that you don't own that you want to buy. So I just started by adding a bunch of things to the wish list, and then I started moving them over to the backlog as I started playing them. And the middle button in this tab bar is a plus button, and that's where it accesses by platform the different games that are available or have been announced and have release dates. So you've got the Switch and the Xbox and the PlayStation and all those different things. And it's just got great graphics, lets you choose exactly the platform that you want, especially when things are on a lot of different platforms, and keeps you reminded of the release dates and makes it easy to track what you want to play. Now, I have used other apps that will do video games as well as books and movies and other sorts of media. But there is something to be said for having a single purpose app for these sort of things, because it's definitely tailored more to video gaming than it would be if it were, something that also included other kinds of media.
This is very nice. I just downloaded it from the App Store. I see that there's also an in-app purchase available for unlock additional customization options. This looks very nice. I just wonder, do you know how the app keeps track of progress throughout a game? I see that there's a completion percentage. I guess you just got to go in and put it in manually. It doesn't have okay.
I think that's right, although I haven't tried that specifically yet.
Okay. This is very cool. I feel like I actually need this kind of app because I have a lot of games in my backlog. And
I know.
So Yeah, I guess I'm just going in and adding a bunch of things to my backlog right now. This is very good. Thanks you for the recommendation. I love that there's stats even. I love that kind of stuff. This is very good, John. See, you are capable of picking good apps from the App Store.
Well, that's quite a compliment. I'm capable.
Your lapse in judgment from IRL continues to be more surprising as we do this episode.
You know what you need to do, Federico? You need to take a risk every now and then and try something that you don't think is in your wheelhouse, but you never know. So I'll stand by my download of IRL. All right, Federico. This next pick that you have, I looked at and I thought,
What? You thought what?
well, it's called Breath Companion, and I was like, is this like? Is this
a mindfulness app?
No. I know. Actually, I thought, is this like a breathalyzer test? Is this
a breathalyzer? Oh
is
my
this
God.
is this some sort of
You think I'm a drunk?
No, are these like for mints? You can kind of like tell if you have bad breath. I mean, what is I don't know. I was like, what is this? And then I realized, of course, it's Breath of the Wild, not bad breath
Yes.
of the Vitici. So, yes. Tell me a little bit about Breath Companion. Why wouldn't they call it? Why didn't they just abbreviate the whole name of the game or something? I mean, Breath Companion is weird.
See, but it sticks with you. Makes an impression. What is this? It's Breath Companion.
Yes, it is.
So here's the thing. I checked yesterday and I've put 185 hours into The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on my Nintendo Switch. It's becoming the game that in my entire life I've played the most. I think that the number one spot is still Final Fantasy Tactics Advance back when I was 13 or 14 with over 200 hours. But I think I will be able to go beyond that because
considering now that you have responsibilities and a job, that is impressive.
You should mind your own business. Breath of the Wild is more than a game for me. It's my safe place. It's a game that I keep going back to relax. I finished the game. I've done all of the shrines. I have the tunic and trousers and the hat. The cap of the wild, which is the best equipment that you can have. I've done all of the DLC. I have the Master Sword powered up. I have the bike. So that's just incredible. But I haven't finished the side quests. I'm not going to do the Korok seeds because that's just impossible. There's like 900 of them. Yeah. But I would like to finish the side quests. I have like 20 left, which is why I believe I will be able to go over 200 hours. But more in general, Breath of the Wild, it just makes me relax. Like I play for like a couple of hours before I go to sleep, or like an hour, and I just travel around. I do a side quest, collect some more gems or stones that I can sell to make money because I like making money in general and in the game. Yes. And Breath Companion is an iPhone app that allows it collects. It's got a map, so it's got an interactive map, so I don't have to use the paper map that I actually have. I have a paper map for Breath of the Wild with annotations on the map. I was actually doing that 2 years ago. So this is a digital version that I don't need to scribble on my phone. It's got icons for like shrines, but I don't care anymore about those. But it's also got indicators for like Moldugas and Lynels, those really bad monsters in Breath of the Wild.
Right.
It's got the locations for all of those, and it's got links to IGN or YouTube to figure out how to complete a side quest or how to complete a shrine. And it's basically an aggregator for all of these things and it's got some inline descriptions. Otherwise, it's got links that take you to the web, to other publications that have done walkthroughs and that kind of stuff. And it's a companion utility to Breath of the Wild. So it's really convenient to have it on your phone. sometimes you're doing a side quest and it's not really clear what the description of the side quest means. And I don't like to waste time. I like to chill and relax in Breath of the Wild. But when I'm doing a side quest, I want to make sure that I get it done. So I would, I don't want to read the full solution. I would just go in there on IGN through Breath Companion, read like the first few lines, understand what the deal with the side quest is, and then I'll just complete it myself. So it's a good way to give me hints and like a little push to make sure that I can complete a side quest. And it's a really convenient app. So
All right.
I don't understand this Breath Companion should have funding, not IRL.
Well, I will tell you that there's more utility in Breath Companion, as far as I can tell, than IRL. So I will give you that. I don't like the name, but that does sound like a handy app, especially when really what all you want to really do is kind of take it easy and relax playing Breath of the Wild. That is a good app. You know what I want? You know what I want to wrap up with, Federico, is I want to wrap up with DoorDash, because this is how.
Oh, I know how you use this.
I had not used DoorDash before we went to San Jose, and on keynote day, I was in a hotel room with Alex, and we were writing away after the keynote, and I found a sub shop that was a few miles away, and we ordered our sandwiches there, and we got one for you too. So I think
that is true.
Yes, you came by and made sure that we were hard at work, and then you ate a few bites of sandwich and we're off again, and we didn't see you until the evening. But yeah, DoorDash, solid app for ordering food. People bring it right to your doorstep. It had the advantage of it was the first time I'd used it, so they didn't charge me a fee or anything like that. And there were just a lot of choices in downtown San Jose, and I've since used it at home as well. Not so good. Again, there's so many of these apps are not so great in the suburbs, in that I ordered some burgers while Jennifer was out of town for me and Calvin, and basically this person had to drive like 15 miles to get the hamburger and then another 5 miles to get it to my house. And by the time it got to me, it wasn't so good anymore. It's much better if you're in an urban environment and the people don't have to go more than a couple of miles.
If I may, that sandwich was good, but a little too much onion.
I know.
I should probably leave a review on the App Store and bring this up.
I knew that you were not a huge fan of that sandwich. They were very fancy sandwiches with a lot of extra sauce and other things on them. And we did not have an order from Mr. Vitici in advance, so we didn't know his special requirements for no onions. But it was Alex and I were starving, so it worked out well for us.
See, this is why people listen to App Stories, to get this extra special commentary.
So the sandwiches were from Ike's, by the way. Ike's in San Jose, California.
Continue to share more information about these sandwiches.
I really like the sandwich, and if Ike ever wants to sponsor App Stories, we'd be totally receptive to that.
Oh my God. All right, I think this is the show.
Okay.
There you go. If you want to know the apps that we purchased recently, there you have it. You will find the links in the show notes, which are available at appstories.net/episodes/119.
Very good.
Yeah, you will find all the links, including IRL and DoorDash, in there, and Breath Companion.
Well, and also Ike's Sandwich Shop. We're going to have a link to that as well.
Oh my God.
We are.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
All right. So, all right, Federico, that's enough for today. I think we've worn out everyone's patience at this point. I'd like to thank our two sponsors, Pingdom and Astropad Studio. You can, of course, find me and Federico either at macstories.net or at Ike's Sandwich Shop. And Federico, he's also on Twitter and Instagram. He's at Vitici. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees, JOHNVOORHEES. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.